So you obviously come from musicians, familiarly speaking. You are obviously
Genetically speaking.
Sure. You're an accomplished musician. You've been that professionally. All appearances, I guess you've played with some of the best musicians alive. And
dead.
And dead.
No, yeah.
And you've written a lot about musicians. For example, Diamond of Heart, Fire, Sound, Section 2, you very directly address musicians and the musical industry. But it seems to be an offering to everybody, beyond just musicians.
It seems that the reason why the focus is there on musicians is because they've been allowed, they've been given license to do whatever they want. The musicians are the little mini gods of this world, right? Right? They walk around like emperors and kings and bigger than life, let's say heroes, let's say. And for some they are. But for others, it's not true. Because it's not about the appearance of the musician. It's not about music as the great accomplishment. Music is not the great accomplishment. Any monkey can be trained to play music. And many are. Just monkeys playing music. And by that I mean imitators. Playing what you're given to play and conforming to what it is all about. That is to say, the musical culture. As if that is like some kind of truth. Maybe for the musician. See, a temporary truth, a step along the path. But the real thing, which I believe is what you're referring to, is that we're talking about realization. And that's the difference. See? The book is an invitation for musicians to take a deeper look at themselves as the machinery they don't know they are. As the programming, they may have a little clue about what they are because they're all into the culture of music. So there is something about that programming that is self-gratifying, let's say, self-building, self-cherishing. And become the virtuoso. Fantastic. See, when I walk on the stage, there's a roar, a mighty roar of cheers and appreciation and gratitude. Here he or she is. See, come to serve us by playing this music we know all too well, we've heard too many times, played the same way, in fact. And so, yes, we need to go deeper than that. See, the theater of creativity. It's theater, it's not real creativity. See, it's the already created and too well imitated. See, even excellently, brilliantly imitated, executed. But there's no reality there. Yeah. Superficial. Anybody can be trained to do that. Almost. Those who are gifted with music, yeah, they can be trained to do it. This is not about that. This is not about any kind of training. This is about transcending phenomena altogether. And that's why the microscope is put on this thing called the musician and music. See, and looking deep into it, into silence. See, and the pure sound itself, which is really now entering the domain of the yogis, the great ones. Those who really hear, those who really see, those who really know.
Yeah, and more about music and your career as a musician. Early on, by all appearances, you stepped away from a blossoming, career as a jazz musician.
Wasn't interested in that. See, on another track, didn't have an ego for that. See, if I had an ego, whatever that would be, it was much more along the lines of unworldliness. See, being true to what we call the spirit, where I come from. See, And having some musical genes enabled me to play with a lot of players, and I crossed paths with a lot of great players. See, talked to them, met them, played with them. Right? But that was like a step on the path of, let's say, this kind of renunciation, which we would have to say is more along the lines of yogic practice, yogic self-realization. Yeah. So from that current, see, which I cultivated as a child relative to the drums and all that the drums mean to shamans and other people of the world, say maybe throughout the universe, what that enabled me to do is to see that I was in this current. See? Meeting it first as a child is great. It's a great advantage because you don't forget it. It's not colored, it's not clouded. It's just like, wow, time is actually bliss. Right? I realized the bliss of time and time patterns, drum patterns, musical patterns, right? Say drum music. Okay? And that was so real and powerful. Nothing else, musically speaking, was more important than that. Because that's going right to the heart. See, you have musicians that are more intellectually evolved, okay? See themselves as superior to natives, okay? But are they? So you have intellectual virtuosity, right, musically speaking, but you don't have the heart of the native. You don't have the wisdom of the native that knows the earth and the universe, who's more in touch with the elements, and I don't mean the elements of music, I mean the elements of nature, the universe. Mm-hmm. So I opted to go that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The rest was left up to my genes and musical karma. It was easy for me to pass through, not get too entangled in. And it was a fun journey. It has been a fun journey. All the musicians I encountered were great people, great spirits in their own right. Too caught up in their music, too caught up in the music image, too caught up in the business of it, too caught up in career, too caught up in the karma of society. Which is not bad, it's great. I saw it as a trap. I've known it as a trap. And for me, like others who are practicing in a similar way, we have to be in the world but not of the world. That's an important, basic truth about it. We're visiting this planet. And we have to operate as if we really know that, and if that is true for us. Mm-hmm.
Is being entangled in the karma of a musical scene, or as a musical being, any different than the karma that non-musical people experience?
Well, music is different from non-music. Music has built into it, let's say as a process and as a gift, let's call it a gift. You know, I think there's something built into it that is like a message: keep it sacred, keep it pure. Okay. Don't reduce the essence and the beauty, the majesty of music. See, and I'm not referring to European music. I'm referring to the music of the spheres and of the universe. See, and maybe some European people, individuals, were open to that and received that from their openness to what that is. See, celestial, say, resonance. So I'm saying that, you know, music potentially is very sacred. See, because we are that. Our bodies are full of vibrations, all kinds of vibrations. So the body is like its own symphony, universal symphony of sound and music and life, see, pulse. We have that in us. So we're born with that, but we're covered over. The culture and worldliness cover that over. See, and cancel it out. So people don't even remember, you know, that they're musicians. They don't even remember what their music is. They don't know who they are. Forget about just that. See, they don't even know who they are and what they are, for real. So, people believe the culturing is the limit of their reality. Whether that's music, whether that's non-music, and that's really what the issue is, what the problem is. So they are not in their fulfillment, and they are not able then to communicate laws of truth and truths of laws that have to do with the universe and, let's say, creation. And so coming in with this kind of bias, which was a deep-seated yogic bias, right, and music altogether, I eventually got to the point where I could easily manifest what it was for the few. And that means I was able to go beyond the blood, see, my culture, the culture of my blood, and then start to manifest something that's given to me from a deeper place, so let's say a higher place. See, let's call it a spiritual place, and let's also call it a creative space, see, where everything just gave way to what I was here to do. People got out of the way, obstacles got out of the way, I got out of the way, see, and let it happen. And so what we're talking about then is the balance of the culture and the worldliness, which is spiritual realization or spiritual intelligence, creative intelligence. See? Which doesn't have a class to it. It's classless. See? It's available to everybody because it's imprinted in us from, let's say, the source of the universe. Let's say it's our solar basis. Soul basis. True soul basis. And to be able to play from that, or even have an experience of that is very, very great. But to be able to play from that, to be able to live from that, it's really sacred path itself. See? That is the sacred path. See? Playing from the deepermost, see? The innermost reality. If that makes sense to anyone. See, the music that I play, which I have names for, various names for, is not apparently beautiful music, even though I can play classical forms. See? But it's not intended. My purpose is not intended to play apparently beautiful music, see? Which so many musicians do a better job of doing for their purposes anyway. Because that beauty, that kind of beauty is not real beauty. It's masked. It's masquerading as beauty. See, it's like candy. It's reminiscent of beauty. See, it symbolizes beauty, but it's not beauty. Nor is a musician beautiful because they play that. See, because you're still a human. You're still like covered over by the culture, and you're still acting out programs that are, let's say, less than noble. See, let's say. You can still be a jerk and play great, exquisite classical music. Be the biggest jerk in the city. See? And have 10 psychiatrists, trying to help you figure out how to live your life, how to do what you need to do, or be what you need to be. See? So here we're talking, going beyond that kind of level, and dealing mostly with healing, original healing, right? Native healing, learning how to breathe, learning how to integrate yourself already with what is out here. See? Being at peace with it from a certain level. Not that this is a peaceful environment by far. It isn't. See? But where we are capable of coming from originally is ultimately peaceful. It's really peaceful. See? That's where the music I'm playing is coming from, a really peaceful place. Even though it deals with the fury of the elements, see? The peace of storm energy, see? The peace of fire energy, it's peaceful. See? Fire burns, that's what it's supposed to do, it's perfect. See? It's not good or bad, it depends on how it's used and how close you are to what it is. See? And each being has this fire in them, but they may not know that. They may never have had an opportunity to look in the mirror of the universe and find it. That it is true for them too. There is a fire in them. See? A creative fire, see? That has its own life. Has its own way. And that we are part of it. If we surrender to what that is in a creative sense, then we are able to do more from that. without trying. It just is that way. So that's a deeper mission relative to, let's say, human spiritual creativity, whether that applies to music or any of the other sciences out here. It doesn't matter. Okay? That's a matter of realization, and it becomes an issue of self-realization. Okay? Understanding the real purpose of whatever the self is, and then we're saying beyond the self.
When I showed up initially, I had trouble with the music, especially coming from my background that involves contemporary composition and mentally complex forms and things like that. I didn't get it, and it took being here and sitting to begin to realize where the music was coming from and how rich, how simple and rich the music appears now. I mean, that was an evolution for me. My background was in actually direct conflict in many ways with being open to the music. And,
you mean as an academic?
Yeah.
Right? It's really a hackademic. Right. An academic and intellectual, in that sense, just hacks at what is real. See? Hacks it to pieces, right? Like chopped meat. So you're drawn to this because of a need for a process of hearing, listening, more deeply than your mind and yourself, your image. See? You're talking about your image, right? The ego. Well, yeah, no, you probably found out that this is more profound than you ever imagined it could be. See? Because the reality is more profound than anybody ever imagines it could be. Because they're not into profundity, let's say. See? Into the make-believe. Make yourself believe that things are real, right, to yourself, not really real. Because without self, you find the really real. See? Without the masking of self, you find the more deeper real. Then you know what the other musicians know about this kind of music. See? And that's why they gather and rally to it, in a manner of speaking. Not because it's pretty or nice, but because there's something profound about it. And they understand that. And it's not even about the music, which is an effect of what it is, see? But the person, the individual. So it's something profound, not better than anybody else, but something profound. The individual then is more open to the deeper and allows that to come into the mix, see? So it's not jazz, but it shows up as jazz as such.
Yeah, what to me early on was apparent simplicity is actually kind of incomprehensible complexity in a way. Where it's coming from, which I don't have any better words to describe it right now, is nowhere or source or heart or something like that, is not on the level of what most people get as any form of a musical education.
Right. And as a result of education, a lot of people are ill-prepared to deal with it if it shows up. Right. So in other words, to resonate with the deeper, you have to open up to deepness. And what we're talking about that's in this music is really everywhere, in a manner of speaking. It's like free manifestation going on, except that in this case it's coming out through certain musical, I guess you might say forms, harmonically, rhythmically, and then melodically. And it's coming out of itself, as itself, by itself, in a sense. Because there's an openness to that process, see, that accesses the real music, the current of music, see. The mindless, the superconscious, mindless current of music, see, which we can talk about, it seems to be, make it theoretical, but it's far from theoretical. See. And for the musicians, say, who play it, they sense it is part of the reality. It's in effect, it's where they're going. They want to be more part of where that's going and where it's coming from. See, who knows why?
So you use the words Heartfire sound or Inami music to describe what you play.
Sometimes, yeah. Not that it's really nameable. It's not really describable. I mean, it's generally speaking, obviously, some form of music. Yeah, it is music, a musical form, art form. It appears that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people may perceive it as chaotic. I mean, a lot of people in the jazz community say, oh, he's playing free jazz.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as free jazz, as far as that goes. Right. It's always rooted in reference. Free jazz is chaotic in nature. No, it's not free jazz. It's not really free in that sense, and it's not jazz in a cultural sense. So, no more than breathing is jazz. No, this is a different level of breathing. And I think the music that I'm playing, if I can put it in certain words, is that it's a form of emotion, regenerated emotion, regenerative emotion. That is founded in and shows up as a form of ecstatic sound. It's already gone. It's always here, but already gone. Every note is already gone. It's part of a fire. So it gets so busy at times it would appear to be chaotic for simple-minded people. Like the universe is chaos. Life is chaos. Humanity is chaotic. But it's not. It's an incomprehensible form of law and order that functions as itself. It functions as it is. And from the fire, my playing demands the others to come up to it. And they love it. And they won't say it's chaotic. No, they say it's really very intense. Very intense. It doesn't demand what we call time. It demands a form of timelessness. And you have to be ready. It's just as it demands a form of melodicness, right? Melodic-lessness as well. And harmonicness and harmonic-lessness, right? And rhythmicness and rhythmic-lessness all together. See? In other words, it really is a paradox. It's a paradox of combined selflessnesses, right? Because the guys are transcended in that moment. See? So the idea is to get to what is nicely called transcendence. So, self-transcended. Emotion regenerative. Sound. Come in?
Yeah, I think that another thing that people generally perceive is that whatever it is, it has a tremendous amount of energy.
Power, you could say that. Force, right? Yogic force, that's why I call it regenerative. See? Self-regenerating. See? It's not empty, it's kind of like... That's not enough. That one kind of... That's not what this is about. We're talking about psychic force, not just creative force. There's lower psychic and there's higher psychic. In this case, it's higher psychic. Yeah. Resonance, higher psychic. Higher creative resonance. That is unique to certain people, but common to others who are involved in, let's say, self-transcending practice. Self-transcended, you have a different universe that you can access. So, everything is as it is, but it is different. Right. When we're talking about higher psychic, we're talking about then the bliss factor that comes into it, which might be useful to touch upon, so, the bliss factor. So I said in the beginning, this is, let's say, emotionally regenerative expression. Means a whole different kind of emotion. Like a self-sustaining emotion. Higher emotion, say. We're not talking about dark emotions, negative emotions, we're talking about higher, ultra positive emotion. Joy, bliss, that kind of emotion. Yogic emotion. Communion, also. So you're not playing for yourself, about yourself. There's no self involved in that. You're playing as a heart being, simply and serenely.
So I think I can safely say, as a musician, that this is not really what musicians or music seems to be about in the world. This is something else.
What else could it be? It's about practice. It's about self-transcending practice. In other words, whatever the self is or appears to be is not what it is. It's a deeper process than just looking at yourself in the mirror of images. It's deeper. It's about looking at source. See? What the real is, apart from the stuff of self, emotion, appearances, memories, and consciousness, less than transcendent reality, which is the true mother.
Yeah, you used the word yoga as well.
Yoga? Yes, it's yoga practice. Right. Communing with nirvana. Nirvanic essence, just silence in nature. That's real, but mostly forgotten, not quite remembered. Everything else is remembered, but not that. The very basis of being and existence, appearance and manifestation, the basis of it, motherness, wisdom.
what seems very unbelievable, almost, but not. That's not quite the right word. Well, anyway, in your case, it seems like you have this critical difference. There's something different between you and your practice and your existence, and almost everybody I've ever met, I can't think of another person, in that you have finished what you're here to do, in a sense. You've
Yeah, it's already finished. Yeah, it's done. That's why I have that piece. It's done. Beautiful piece. Right. Yeah. So, I can't say I had anything to do with that, however. You see, it just happened. Yeah, it's something that happened. And my Aunt Gracie and my elders knew that was going to happen. They just knew it. They would speak to me about it when I was young. Say, no, they were all loony birds. Beautiful people, but they didn't know what they were talking about. How would they know what they were talking about? They're talking about years ahead. Ahead. How could they know something like that? And so, it's done. Yeah, it's done. Now this is the post-doneness, which means time to share. Sharing it. In a very small sense, we can say this is the bodhisattva phase of it. Right. Sharing with others, making sure they get their fill. If they have the courage or the need, then it's need to ask. And earlier what you were asking about, I said, no, there's no need, because what it is spontaneous in my case. It just happens of itself. And I can tell people I had a need to play, but no, there's no way I wasn't going to play. It just was what it was. It wasn't a need. It's just a manifestation. A real manifestation in that sense. It just had to be like breathing. So if you have a need to breathe, yeah, we can say we have a need to breathe, but breathing happens by itself. You have a need for your heart to beat, but you can say, yeah, I need my heart to beat, but it's working fine right now. That's why we're here. Heart's working fine. Everything is functioning by itself. You're not doing it, it's doing you. And the music is the same way. She shows up as a need. I'm asked to play, and so, there are conditions. Set up. Say, oh, we want you to play, and I pick and choose things, and now I rarely play as such. Play, which is using the conventional language of playing. Let the sound go forth. I let the sound go forth. People are saying in so many words, would you come here and let the sound go forth on this date? I said, generally no. Not out of fear, just there has to be a little bit more intensity to the situation before I can do it. I wait to see the signs of what that is. Coming.
So does a perceived need from a practitioner, is that at all meaningful?
Of course, everything is should be meaningful to a basic practitioner. Everything has that meaning. Every little bit of phenomena has to be checked for by a real practitioner. A meditator. Every thought, every impulse should be examined carefully. Like you can pull it off the shelf and say, oh, I have this thought, this one word, a concept. Every emotion, every bodily, gesture, urge, all of that is seen in the objective, not as the subjective. Oh, these are mine. No. Whose are these? Whose are these? Whose body is this? My mother would say, remember, that's my body, take good care of it, I gave it to you. It's not yours. Respect it, right? She wasn't far from wrong there. She was right, in a manner of speaking. We are part of the continuum. Should it be respected or should it be disrespected? But getting back to the meditatee, right? The meditator, right? The practitioner has to examine all sorts of things that arises in its consciousness. You have to own that. Before you can transcend it, you need to even know that it's happening. Instead of being asleep, walking around as a zombie, so distracted by everybody else's stuff, that's all you know about. We check your consciousness, right? We go into your memories. Say, damn, well, who are these people? Why are there so many peeps in there and so much of their memories that are useless? You need to know, to recognize, to master, and then transcend, if you can do that. In that order. Since you asked.
And why would anybody not be able to do that?
Because they don't want to do it. Right? You have a blockage, right? You have a self, right? If you have a self, forget about it. Self means, no, I can't. I don't go that way. That's self. I can't do that. See? Right. That's like the self is the one that says, oh, there is no inner. There's none. They haven't found any. They're not looking for an inner. So the inner is far removed from them. It's another galaxy. There's nothing else to hear because the appearance of sound is enough for them. They don't want to get into meaning, the hidden meaning, true meaning of anything. Whereas the whole world of appearance that we see around us, the world of appearance is symbolic of what? A bridge to what? Manifest from where? Already going back to what? What kind of music, by the way? A tune you know? Or a tune that's well worth forgotten, say. Like transcendence of all worlds.
Earlier, when we were sitting, you mentioned culture. And so I wanted to ask...
Based upon what you were reading, I mentioned
Yeah.
culture, that all of these things that you read have a cultural base, yeah.
Yeah. And which culture, if any, does your music and the Dharma that you share have to do with or for?
The culture of silence. And the burn the silence is. I mean, it's the instantaneous dissolution that silence is. We can call it the no culture, the culture of no culture, such. Having to do with what may be called true spirit being, something like that. Pure spirit being. It already is, see, itself. We can also say, with a degree of proper resonance, appropriate, a heart. What is? And the appropriate conduct of one who understands the heart of what is. which means a certain kind of, let's say, nobility, majesticness, majesty, a sense of majesty, like the big mountains, awe. See? Native awe. Radical, native, common sense.
We were just talking about musicians and who shows up to play or to hear the music, your music specifically. And you mentioned that you honor and respect those who respect what you're doing.
Yeah, mutual respect.
Yeah, because you respect what you're doing and that it was given to you to do that way.
Yeah, it's given to me. It's not like I'm doing it, I'm creating it. It feels that way. But it's given to me that way. That's let's say a secret way of saying it. It's given. See, as given, it's given. As given. See, it's given. See, yeah. Then there's only giving. I would extend that then, in terms of esoteric meaning within meaning, to what compassion is, as a demonstration. Giving, givingness. And to me, it's not music, it's just heart resonance. Heart sound, yeah, I've called it heart sound. Heart fire sound, in fact, yeah. So those words come into play at this moment. Very, very, really, very really, right? Really come into play at this point. Right? The heart's fire. And that fire's sound. Listen to the sound of fire, everyone. The ever burn, the purification. Well, the next question is there any karma to be resolved? So we have to then ask, see, what level is karma real? Action, reaction, cause and effect? Physical level? Obvious. Emotional level? Obvious. Causal level? What? That's why we're like finding the conversation about karma at the causal level. Is there a cause? Is there a cause beyond the cause? That's what now we're getting to, and then talking about the mental level. Is there a cause at the mental level? Is there a cause beyond the mental level? Is there a cause then at the etheric level, beyond the mental level, at the cosmic level? Is there a cause beyond that? Is there a cause then at the spiritual level? Say, the superfine, light level? Is there a cause beyond that? Is there a cause beyond light? Is there the cause of causelessness? Or is causelessness the cause of cause? Or does causelessness create causelessness? And then when we are moving closer to what it is nirvana cause or effect? Is isness caused or is it effective? So then there is no cause. See, then we get to that. Emptiness. Everything said and done is empty in nature. It's just empty. And I would take a step towards the positive, because that might seem a little bit like who knows what. Emptiness then is radiance. Synonymous with radiance. An intangible radiance, which makes it magnificent. Question answered. Yeah. This which is without source is freely given. And should be freely given, therefore. Infinitely so. You shouldn't have to pay for wisdom. Like you shouldn't have to pay for oxygen, and water, and space. You don't have to pay for space. You have to assume it as it is. Space. Painless space. Selfless space. Bodiless space. Naturally it's painless if it's bodiless. Humanless space. Free space. Not just free jazz. Man, no such thing as free jazz. Free jazz is just a different formulation of mechanical devices. So it's not real. It's a cover. It's a mask. Free jazz mask. There's no free jazz. This hot fire sound comes just as like that. It's volcanic in nature. Nobody does it. It just is that way.
Is heart fire sound also a form of living, of existing?
Right. It's not limited to music. Heart fire sound is listening to silence. Hello. It's how well you listen to silence and translate that into living experience. And it should be in accordance with the wisdom code, if it's genuine. If it's genuine, then it's not interested in messing up the lives of other people, if it's genuine. It's not interested in that. It's just grace. Free grace. Heart space. Gratitude. And the joy of being. Heartful. Heartfelt. Heart awake.